Hello and welcome to another episode of The Reject Pile with me, Luke Edwards. I think today I'm channeling my inner Adam Buxton and doing my first outside broadcast intro for the show. Incidentally, this is our second video episode, so if you've been listening to these podcasts via audio so far and you're interested to know what we all look like, you can check this out on YouTube or on the Substack where the podcast is hosted, and you can do the same for the last episode with Mike Grace, where we focused on the sketch Dinosaur's Den. I should acknowledge that I'm not alone. You might see in the background my dog companion Mac, so I really am channeling Adam Buxton by bringing him along with me. Where is he? There we go. This episode we are looking at a sketch called The Doctor Won't See You, which was submitted by James Docherty. James is a comedy and joke writer whose work has been featured on DMs Are Open, Breaking the News, The Treason Show, News Biscuit, and I'm sure many other things as well. And you can follow James on Blue Sky at JS Threads at J_S_Docherty, and Reddit at James_S_Docherty. The Doctor Won't See You was submitted to episode 2 of series 2 of DMs Are Open, which had the prompt love. So you'll hear about James's approach to responding to that brief and where the idea for The Doctor Won't See You came from. If you're not familiar with the format of the show, we will first hear a performance of the latest version of the script from our Reject Pile cast. Featuring today, we've got Rachel Cook, Alexis Coward, Ronan Hatfull and Rob Stevenson. And then we'll dive into a conversation with James and our resident script editor, Phil Stewart, for a bit of analysis and review, reflection on the writing process, the feedback process that we go through on the Reject Pile, with Phil giving James some notes and then James working through those notes. And today is a really great conversation. James is a knowledgeable guy. I think he's doing really well. He's had loads and loads of credits over a number of years. So we had a good little bit of insight from Phil and from James. And I hope neither of them will mind me mentioning that I think they had a good nerd off. And at times I think James had the upper hand. We'll cover more about parody, similar to what we spoke about last time with Dinosaur's Den. A little bit about in-jokes. And then, strangely, we'll get on to which Doctor from the Doctor Who universe is perhaps the most attractive. So that's all in store for you in today's episode. If you are liking what you're hearing, or you've got any feedback or anything you'd like to get in touch, or of course if you have your own rejected material, please do get in touch at rejectpilepod@gmail.com. You can also find us on pretty much all the socials, Threads, Instagram, Blue Sky, Facebook, X, hopefully not forgetting anything, should be at Reject Pile Pod on all of those. And I would say we're tending to focus on comedy, which is fine, but don't let that stop you. You know, if you're a drama writer, a novel writer, or theatre writer, or maybe you're not even a writer, maybe you're a musician or an artist, anything like that, please do get in touch. This is about looking at rejected works of art or entertainment from any field, and hopefully helping you to grow as an artist, or just entertaining you along the way. So on that note, let's get cracking and hear The Doctor Won't See You.
And there, outside those doors, you will find hideous leather-skinned monsters who've been at war with their neighbours for decades.
Oh, let me guess. Is it Suntar?
Swindon, circa 2025. You're home, Simone. You can check in with your mum, see how the old footy team are doing. Spoiler alert, I'll give next season a miss if you know what's good for your stress levels.
You mean this is it then, Doctor? I thought we'd have more time, more adventures, more opportunities.
Oh, blimey, not another one. You're not in love with me, are you? I'm flattered, but you're not the first. K9 wouldn't stop humping my leg until I got it neutered. Have you tried getting grease out of corduroy?
How do you neuter a robotic dog?
Same as the regular one, just needs a steady hand, a good pair of sharp scissors and a fire extinguisher on standby. It's a bit like playing a version of Operation powered by Chernobyl. I tell you, he was the final straw, and once my trousers had stopped smouldering, I said, no more messing about with companions. I'm done, finito, and definitely not for a 7.
I just don't want this to end, Doctor. It's just so nice since I met you. I felt my life has changed for the better. Granted, that might just be getting out of Swindon. I mean, I could have felt the same with the day you returned to Reading. But this can't be it. I mean, hang on. A 7? Oh, you, I was keeping these in reserve, but you've left me no option.
Please tell me that's just a new type of body spray.
Pheromones. I got them during our trip to Amor, the love planet. Guaranteed to capture the object of your desire or your money back.
Simone, that was uncalled for. Wow! Hold on. Cold shower setting. I'm glad I let that software upgrade happen.
You've given the game away, though, Doctor. By moving, I can see your big lever, all ready to be pulled. Let me take it in my hands. Caught you, Doctor. Now you're in my arms, you really won't be able to resist the scent. All the cold showers in the world can't save you.
Oh my! 2 hearts are really not good right now. Double the dose in half the time. We can't, Simone. I've had to leave companions in parallel dimensions to keep them away. The Cybermen are my fault too. You have a couple of bad breakups, and they all get together, find a way to suppress their emotions, and become mechanized facsimiles of humans, all plastic and metal. You don't want that, do you?
Doctor. One of the best boyfriends I've ever had was a soulless piece of plastic. I'd have kept him forever if the batteries hadn't leaked and the website hadn't stopped selling that model. Oh, I miss Julio.
Then I guess there's only one option left for me.
Now that's better. I bet I'm not your type now, am I?
Doctor, didn't I tell you I'm bisexual? I mean, who isn't in this universe? And I really like the blonde hair. It suits you. Can I help you choose an outfit?
Damn it, I forgot I'm always a dish whether I'm male or female. Even when I dress like I buy my clothes from a jumble sale. Okay then, I'm going to give you the cold shoulder. Literally. TARDIS, Time Lord, emergency procedure 4429. Imminent threat to life.
Procedure 4429 enabled. Stand by for assistance of preserving encasement in 3, 2, 1. Procedure complete. Time Lord encasing carbon freeze. Hibernation prepared.
Well, Doctor, I don't know how you did it, but you're a perfect copy of Julio. Now, if I can just carve a space big enough for a motor and some batteries. TARDIS, where'd you keep the tools?
James and Phil join me now. Hello, guys.
Oh, yeah, Luke.
Hello, Luke. James, I wondered if you'd like to start by telling us about the inspiration behind The Doctor Won't See You.
Okay, so this sketch came from DM's Open submission. The prompt was love back in the second series. And it was just literally sort of did a thing about love and, you know, what love can be in the sort of settings you could have, the situations that you could have, and sort of went through and thought, well, you know, there's unrequited love, there's rejection, and, you know, I think this probably shows a lot about me. And then it was just playing and looking for a set situation and probably watching too much of Doctor Who and deciding a parody of Doctor Who, where one of the main things that happens in it every time is the companions fall in love, and far too regularly in the new series. But then one thing leads to another, but they can't be with the Doctor for reasons. And I just thought, well, what could all those reasons be apart from the usual mix of things? And ran the sketch from there, exploring sort of where it could go. Why the Doctor didn't want to be with companions, why don't people want to be with people? You've had bad relationships, your fingers have been burnt in the past. That led to, in the very first drafts of Phil saw that was submitted, that we played around with it, that actually, the reason the Doctor has mortal enemies is they're his exes. And ultimately, I think in the very first draft we wound up with, it was actually the Doctor was married to the TARDIS.
Yes, that's true.
And that's the script that you submitted to DMs, was the one that I read.
Yes, that's the script that went to DMs.
I obviously gave you a bunch of notes in response to this initial draft. And one of the notes I gave was the fact that I thought it wasn't that focused. Although you've just described it to me with clear focus, which is great. When I read that first draft, that hadn't come across. So you've subsequently written a subsequent draft, and then a one after that, because I gave you another set of notes. And that third draft is the one that the audience have just heard, that I haven't heard, and I haven't even read. So I'd like to know, how did you go about addressing that lack of focus? What did you do specifically? How did you solve that problem?
It was looking at it and taking the feedback as fairly as it was meant, and not running away and crying, and and looking at it and going, okay, it isn't, and thinking about the sort of beats of the sketch and setting it up and going places. And there's a thing Trey Parker and Matt Stone talk about how they write South Park, where the beats of their story, you can't say this happens and then this happens, because if you do that, there's no connection and your sketch falls apart. Things are connected by buts and so's.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. So when you break the story down, it's Simone is in love with the Doctor, but the Doctor doesn't want that. And it was where these buts and so's can go, and how to bring the focus to it.
So can I just check, James? Is that something you'd done in the writing of the first draft, or was it like a post activity to go back and go, okay, well, what are the beats of the first draft now that I've written it?
It was a post activity. I mean, I will say the first one was written for series 2 of DM, so that was 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And so in 3 years, the sketch sat dormant on a hard drive and untouched, and has been picked up again. And it's that 3 years of experience writing jokes, writing comedy, and going, oh yeah, I can actually see where this sketch's weakness is. In the second draft, I think pages 2 and 3 completely change. So we go away from this idea of the Doctor having bad breakups, and it's essentially the Doctor, but keeping the ethos that the Doctor cannot love because it will cause the end of the universe. So made it bigger. Let's go bigger.
The stakes don't get much bigger than that.
Exactly. There was I can't remember who it was, but someone wrote a thing for British Comedy Guide a long time ago and talked about they write things via a thing called soup recipe, which soup is situation and ongoing premise.
Okay. I've not heard of this. This is great.
It's reversal, exaggeration, continuation, provocation. I can't remember the others, but there's 6 things which spell out recipe, and the idea being that you can do these things. So essentially, yes, it's like, when you break up with somebody, you feel the world is going to end. In this case, the world is going to end, or the universe is going to end. So, and then just to bring it back to Earth, it actually turns out the Doctor is a bit of an arse, and he's actually gaslighting the hell out of them and makes them leave, makes them break up with him themselves. Oh, I can't do this because, and they leave. And that was second draft, which you gave me you gave me the notes for, Phil, and said, you're getting there, but there needs to be some tweaking and some changes, and then the third version has a couple of twists in it, which I don't want to spoil before I've heard it, because I'm desperate to hear it.
Well, I think you have actually, focused on the thing I think is so important in a sketch, and that is focus. So many people, when they're writing, have lots of great ideas. Well, that's lovely, but focus on one idea and really push into one idea. And if the idea is the companion is in love with the Doctor, that's not quite enough of an idea. We need to know what is the actual core of it. The Doctor is responding to this and can't do this, and they're in that situation because, and that when you sort of push it down a bit more, then you get to the core of the idea. What is the actual problem? And then once you've figured that out, then you've got to figure out various different, like you say, the recipe responses that somebody might do, but you've got to really push down to get to that, the absolute core of it. And one of the notes I often give when I'm reading sketches is, what's it about? And what is the core of this sketch, that if you removed it, none of the other stuff would work. And then once you know that, you cut everything that isn't that core. And it might be funny, and you can often lose gags, but those gags don't belong in that sketch, because ultimately a sketch is meant to be a simple thing. It's not a scene from a film. It's not a comedy drama with a beginning, middle, and end. Though there is a structure, but it's not that sort of a structure. Ultimately, a sketch is a very simple thing where you've got somebody that wants something and then they're having difficulty getting it. Yes, and they try different extreme lengths, and then something will happen that will then reverse it. Generally speaking,
Yes.
And I felt in your initial draft, there was so many ideas you wanted, but you hadn't quite got to the fundamental root of what it was about.
The 3 drafts, the first page and the beats of the first page don't change, actually, all through all 3 versions. There's a few dialogue changes, there's a few timing changes to push things along. But then in the second draft, it is literally using an external effect, which was making the TARDIS set an alarm off and using some sound effects. I mean, the joys of writing, the joys of audio. You want to create a temporal rift. That's thousands of hours of CGI or a very loud noise.
Absolutely.
It's a ruler on a table going pudding.
Absolutely.
And you've created that, which is...
Although you do need somebody to say what that was in some way, because otherwise the audience might think, oh, that's a ruler on the desk.
Yes.
What's that got to do with So there does need to be a little bit of dialogue explanation on radio.
Which you follow up with,
Exactly.
Bizarrely, I've been reading recently biography of Douglas Adams.
Oh, yes.
And the scripts for Hitchhikers, some of the descriptive effects, some of the descriptions he wrote for sound effects go over sort of half a page. And probably gave the poor guys at the Radiophonic Workshop kittens.
We were talking about this in our previous podcast. Yes, the idea of putting in in jokes and descriptions in that way. It's lots of fun for the writer to have a relationship with the production company, and that's it. But ultimately, you've got to be able to write something that the audience will understand what that is. And sometimes it's not, whatever you do, it's still going to be a ruler on a desk, however it sounds, however it's made. So the audience still need that level of clarity. But yes, I'm not against writing little jokes, but ultimately don't do that at the expense of what the audience hears.
No.
Can we just go back? So you started to, the question was, what was your response to the feedback about the focus? And you started to look at beating it out. So did that help to illuminate for you that there were some...
you could see there were 3 or 4 ideas sort of trying to converge to a point. So in the first draft, you had the Daleks turn up, make a booty call, as it were, to try and get him back and beg and tell him they've changed, and start singing songs down the phone to him.
And can I just say, this is a great example of a brilliant joke that has to go. The bit when the Daleks, and obviously the audience hasn't heard this, the audience starts to sing "Nothing Compares to You."
I would like to point out, for clearance purposes, it would be really difficult, because anything done by Prince is really difficult to clear. So fortunately, that would never make it anyway. Just so you know.
We would like to try again, Doctor. With some couples counselling, we can make it work this time. We have searched all of Earth's literature records to find the right phrasing of our conclusion, because, Doctor, nothing compares to you. Oh, no, you don't. It has been 11.041 hours and 15 Earth days. Oh no, Temple Storm! X is there. Who'd have him?
Yeah.
Fantastic. It was so good. And a shame to see that gag go, but in the process of looking at the feedback...
It wasn't right for this sketch. It didn't add value as a beat.
I've got 2 notes on this. One, I think that's a punchline joke. I think you've gone, he's managed to solve the issue with with the companion, and then the Daleks come in, and we think, oh, it's going to be the Daleks going to attack. No, they're in love with them as well.
Yeah.
Boom. That is obviously a punchline tag. And the other bit is Daleks don't count in. They count in rels. Just in case anyone's really paying attention, it should be 1.47 rels and 16 Earth days.
Okay, well,
Thank you for top nerdery. And
well, this gets us on to, the parodying the source text. And one
yes.
of your notes.
Yep.
Can we just have a little
Oh,
look
my
at
notes.
opening line?
Oh, yes. Oh,
Doctor.
gosh, yes,
And,
yes.
And there we go. Outside those doors is the greatest hive of scum and villainy in the whole galaxy.
Yes, that's clearly a Star Wars
it
reference.
is a Star Wars reference.
What's it doing in a Doctor Who sketch?
Because it made your brain itch, and that amused me.
See, that's the thing, is that in a setup, the early bit of a sketch,
Yeah.
you need to explain what we're doing. And if you've got sort of TARDIS sound effects,
Yep.
and you've got Doctor Who-y type stuff, and then
you
suddenly do a Star Wars gag, and the audience are going to be confused. I think unless you're deliberately going, haha, you thought we were going to do a Doctor Who joke, but we're not.
We've set Doctor Who in the Star Wars galaxy.
Yeah,
or it's Obi-Wan Kenobi or something.
Understand? Yeah.
So
it's an understandable-
that was my notes going, and I know it's a nerdy thing, but I think it's good to be. It pays to be consistent, and it comes back to. And I know you're a nerd and you know this stuff, so I'm a bit disappointed because you should know
it's
better.
well, I'm going to outflank on the nerdy move here, and go. The reason, because in the original script, which I think's changed in the record, is that Simone's from Sunderland.
Yeah.
And there is floating around on YouTube, and when I was at university, floating around on extremely high generation copies of VHS, showing how old I am, there was a parody of Star Wars done called Geordie Star Wars, which was essentially the films spliced together with people overdubbing it.
Wow.
And one of the scenes in it is that famous shot as they cruise up and they're outside Mos Eisley in the distance, and you see it in the distance, and the voice just shouts Sunderland very loudly, cuts back to Alec Guinness going, "You will never find a more epic hive of
Beautiful.
Sunderland." And so it was a very
It's a very deep cut.
it's a tribute joke to something that I saw sort of 27 years ago.
You see, I'm going to bring it. I think if this was a Star Wars sketch, absolutely keep it in. It's fine. But it's just it's crossing the
doesn't belong there.
paths.
Yeah.
It's like we're
it's
talking.
crossing the streams. Don't cross the streams.
Exactly. And I just it's no, stay in your lane. Do a Doctor Who
A
sketch.
third sci-fi for good measure there.
So that line was in draft 1 and 2, but we lost it from
The
draft 3.
punchline is still there, of it being, but brought into the Doctor Who universe.
Yeah.
I genuinely am very curious to know how you solve all these problems, because there are issues with the script. But then that is normal. I think you well exactly. And also you were saying before about you had this sketch and it was 3 years ago, and you've quite clearly looked at it and gone, "Gosh, I've learnt since then."
Yep.
And I think one of the things that writers need to come to terms with, particularly when they start out, is that you don't know it all, and it is a path, and it is what did you say, a process, but for yourself as well, of learning, how to improve yourself as a writer. And it is a good thing to look back at your old stuff with embarrassment. I always think that's a good note.
Yeah.
You just go, because since then I've got better. You're often saying on this show, at the end of the show, can you share with us stuff?
Oh, like what are you working on?
Yeah, like my short films and things. I always only really like the one I'm currently working on, because I know it's better than all the other things. But that's a good state to be in. I don't know. I once had a discussion with another writer, and they were insistent that they were never going to get any better. That was the best they could ever be. There were tears, there were upsets, that we were yelling at each other. The next day, they delivered the best script they've ever done. And it just sometimes is a pain barrier that you have to go through for writers to actually come to terms with the fact that no, you can get better. You've got it in you, and it had to be able to accept the fact that to be able to be open to improve, you've got to accept the fact that you need to improve, but also that you've got it in you. So one of the things that, although we call the show the Reject Pile, that the word reject suggests a bad thing. Yeah. But I see it as we're here to help develop and teach and improve people's writing ability as best as we can, and that's a good thing.
Through writing on Newsjack, there are friends, online friends from everybody who on a Thursday night would dump all their jokes out as we do on a Friday with breaking the news and things like that. The social media gets flooded with everyone's didn't make it.
Yeah.
And that's been happening since Newsjacks, and some people admitted they struck beginner's luck and got something on in the first episode or in their first ever submissions and went, oh, this is doddle, and then spend the remainder of the run going, oh, why am I not getting on? What I've got less funny. And it's not that it's not fitted or it's not worked in the room or things like that. I mean, this sketch ran long. I was lucky enough during COVID to go to a couple of Newsjack recordings, and when I'd been submitting, I'd been trying to submit tight, page and a half sketches, thinking that's the joke. And going and listening to the full record and then listening to the broadcast, you could see there were the sketches they put on were all 2.5, 3 minute sketches. And then when they got broadcast, they cut fat out during the broadcast. They cut the bits that didn't land with the audience out live. And kept the central, because the punchline was still there, the setup was still there. They just found that some of the filling of the sandwich could go missing.
They cut whole sketches if they don't land in the room. It's not always for timing. A lot of this, the reason why they have live audiences is you never know if it's really funny until an audience start laughing. Basically, it is always they always run long.
But that's really interesting, that point about you've observed it firsthand, that even in the edit, having captured the full sketch in front of a live audience, even in the edit is refinement.
Absolutely.
Great.
There were things that it was interesting listening to people's sketches. There were things that didn't work, or there were things where they added a sound effect or changed something. It's fascinating to see, but the script editors sat there and that didn't work with the producers, must have done something in the edit.
And it's worth mentioning, isn't it? We haven't covered that this on previous episodes. If you can get along to a record, even if it's not an open door show and you haven't submitted or anything like that, just get yourself in the room and observe how this works. I
told you I went to
your bow.
I went to John Finnemore. It is like seeing a master at work, but it's also good to be part of the process, and you just see how it's done, not just from the point of view of when they record a line, how is it. What I would really love to be able to do is get access to the sketches, the scripts, and then the final. Now, having been to record and then the final episode, I know that when you listen to the final episode, it will be different to the record, which again will be different to the sketches, the actual original scripts. But that's, like I said, that is the normal process, and I think that is again something that new writers, resist, is this idea that what they've written down is absolutely sacred and cannot be touched, and not a single word, not a single line. But that's not what you'll do. As a writer of scripts, you are just part of the process, and the actor will contribute, the producer will contribute, the editor will contribute, the broadcaster will give notes. There's always going to be other people involved in this process, as opposed to if you're writing a novel, then you have got direct access, your words, to the reader. But even then, you might get an editor. But you know what I mean. If you're publishing just stories or what have you, but as a scriptwriter, you have got to very quickly get used to the idea that your words are going to be challenged, every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Because ultimately, everybody wants to make the best version of the thing that you're making. Nobody wants jokes not to land, and nobody is. It's not an ego thing. It's not. I've had conversations with people going, "Oh, that producer doesn't like my stuff." I don't think it's a personal thing. I think they genuinely are trying their best. It's not like they're trying to put their own jokes in, or they've got favourite writers or anything. All they're going for is what is it that they think, in their experience, will get a good laugh in the room with the audience, and then ultimately, when it plays out on the radio or wherever, is it going to respond well with an audience at the time of broadcast?
This stems from something that was said in one of the previous episodes of this show when Dan Swearett was on talking about breaking the news. And saying that they have been doing this now for 31 series. They know what works in that room on a Thursday at 1:00 when they hit record. And so if your jokes aren't landing in that room, it's not that your jokes are not funny, it's just your jokes are not funny to an audience in Glasgow at 1:30 on a Thursday.
Yeah.
Who are people who can make it to a recording at 1:30 on a Thursday.
Well, that's the other thing, of course. When you go to a recording, you get to know, how should we say, the sort of people who are available at that particular time. They get different audiences. And when I saw Jonathan in the Moor, there's an awful lot of, shall we say, more slightly older middle-class people, because it's Radio 4, you know, and so there's going to be those sorts of people who can attend and they're available during the day, whereas, you know, other people...
Well, DMs Are Open was going for a younger audience.
It was.
I think. Was it attracting that younger audience in the room? I mean, it was going for a younger audience on the radio at broadcast.
Yeah.
But, did you go to a DM's
Sadly
recording or
not,
just a
no.
Newsjack recording?
Sadly
We've
not,
been
they
to
were
a
a bit
couple.
hard to get to.
Yeah.
We've never been to the same one.
No, we haven't.
But I've been to a few, and he's been to a few.
Yeah, I think it's kind of mixed, isn't it? It's a mixed demographic.
I mean, the one that I went to was recorded at a university, if I recall rightly, one of them. And I thought, you know, maybe they're doing that deliberately to encourage the students to come along. But no. No, it was all the old white middle-class Radio 4 listeners, as always, unfortunately.
And therein is the challenge of writing for Radio 4, and Radio 4 being the sole preserve of comedy nowadays. If you wind the clock back slightly longer, it used to be on all the stations. You know, I worshipped at the cult of Blue Jam on late night radio once with Chris Morris.
That's going back a bit.
It is going back a bit.
You don't get that on Radio 1
You
anymore.
do not, no. Blue Jam. I mean, you know, Blue Jam was just mind blowing as a sort of like teenager.
Yeah.
Chris Morris being Chris Morris before the day before Brass Eye.
Yeah.
But you know, you knew you were listening to something pretty amazing, a bit like John Finnemore. You know when you are listening to a master of their craft.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you know that was on there, and all the channels had some things. I mean, even Radio 3 has one of my favourite ever things, which was Chris Morris being interviewing Peter Cook.
Oh, wow.
With Why Bother, which was Peter Cook playing Sir Arthur Street-Greebling.
Was that Radio 3?
Yes, that was Radio 3.
I can't imagine that being on Radio 3 now.
No. I mean, it has a lot. There's not enough swearing in it for Radio. But that, you know, but when it was a much more mixed thing, and that's where DMs, or there was a show, Radio Wales did a show that I didn't dare try and submit anything to, because I get enough Scottishness. I'm not Welsh in any way. I'm trying to do it, but I mean, I wrote down one of the shows I particularly enjoyed over the last couple of years that Radio 4 did a broadcast for was What's on Cornwall.
Yeah,
which was the sketch comedy written and performed down in Cornwall.
Yeah.
Well, I did one for BBC Radio Norfolk. I performed in that. So this is going back years. They had it. Is it BBC Voices? Was it in Cornwall or not?
I honestly don't know. It was just a sketch troupe in Cornwall.
Dawn French was in it.
Dawn French did. They got Dawn French for sort of bits and bobs of it.
Yeah.
So Dawn French turned up, did some voiceover work for them, because she obviously lives down that way.
Yeah.
And it was
a year or two ago, probably?
Yeah, something like that.
I did not know about that. No, I'm talking about years ago. My brother and I was living in Norwich, and BBC Voices, they wanted to attract local comedy talent. So they set up a show where people could turn up one day, and then they would give them newspapers and things like that, and they would write sketches, and then those sketches would then be recorded in the studio, and then they would cut them together with stand-up material of local stand-ups and stuff like that. In principle, it was, you know, a good idea. I don't know if it entirely landed, because it didn't have it was more interested in, should we say, local talent, prioritising that over making a good show. And that's not an insult of it, but what I'm saying is that they wanted to have a mixture of local people, rather than trying to come up with a show that was genuinely hilarious. And that's because that's the purpose of BBC Voices, is to give the opportunity for local people to appear on the radio. That show no longer exists. They tried to do different things. They made it into just a stand-up show and things like that. But those sorts of vehicles, I don't think exist anymore, do they? As far as I know, there's no
local radio has been decimated over the last few years. I mean, you know, not that you can tell from the accent, but I lived in Newcastle for 30 years.
I didn't pick that up.
So is that where the Sunderland references are coming from?
Gosh, we're bringing it back to the scripts.
We are. Let's go back. Yeah.
Sorry, yes. Sort of sidetrack.
Okay, so you've got your reference to the VHS Star Wars parody.
Yes.
And also your... so are you from Newcastle?
I was born in London. I lived up there from 10.
Yeah.
So I'm a I'm a naturalised northerner.
So you take the opportunity to have a pop at the Mackhams.
In nicest possible way. I mean, I worked in Sunderland as well for
Yeah.
a period of time, and my brother lived there for a while. So but it's done in the nicest possible way, while also just being a nice setup with a nice rhythmic thing. And obviously, we'll hear how it was solved for the third draft when we hear it.
Yes, I'm very keen to hear it, to be honest with you, because a lot of the questions I had were about structure and about focus and deciding what the sketch is about and just doing that thing. Is now a good time for you to plant it to us? Have you got more things you want to walk through?
No, I think so, because I think we will have more to say.
I think so.
In hindsight, having heard it.
But it sets the premise straight away. You know what you're going to hear.
And there, outside those doors, you will find hideous, leather-skinned monsters who've been at war with their neighbours for decades.
Oh, let me guess. Is it Suntar? Well, Doctor, I don't know how you did it, but you're a perfect copy of Julio. Now, if I can just carve a space big enough for a motor and some batteries. TARDIS, where'd you keep the tools?
There's quite clearly the concept is the extreme lengths that the companion will go to. That was one of my notes. You've got this is the thing, and it's a repeated effort of something to go, and each time the Doctor's responding to another thing, and that's great. Structurally, that's great.
And
go on.
It's different from the first two drafts.
Yeah.
I feel, I don't know if you guys agree, but I feel like in this third draft, Simone is the protagonist, and she hasn't been in any of the previous ones.
Yeah.
It's like you flipped it and made it. It's less about the Doctor is a completely different character as well. He's sort of harassed and hunted by her, and like needs to try all these things to get away from her.
It was a complete reversal.
Yeah.
I like, I kept. You can see from the scripts as you've got the first page doesn't change throughout all three versions, but that is scene setting and a little bit of I've been here before, but then. Yeah, it was sort of Phil's note said subvert, reverse, and I thought, right, what's the biggest reversal? Well, let's make the companion the pest.
Yeah.
I think one thing that the protagonist has to have is an objective, and if you're looking at your sketch and going, who's got the strongest objective? Well, the companion wants this. That making them the protagonist is a natural step, and so. That's what the sketch is about. If you've got to explain that sketch, it is I've got a companion who's in love with a Doctor, and they go to extreme lengths.
Yes,
that's and if you I think with the sketch you need to be able to explain it in that sort of almost elevator pitch way. And you could explain that to somebody. Hey, I've got a sketch. What's it about? I've got this. And a producer go, that sounds great. Show me the script. Yeah. So to be able to have it that condensed, because the idea is that strong, I do have a couple of notes.
I wouldn't expect anything less from
Yes, of course. I think the regeneration, I'm turning into a woman, and I feel that might, should we say, not necessarily land in the 21st century. If it was, I don't know, the 1970s or something, we might get away with it, because the idea that, dare I say it, that women might like women as well, and the fact that people are more open in their different varieties of sexuality, and you're playing that for laughs, I would go, as a producer, I might want that changed, simply because it would depend on your audience and where you're aiming at, but I feel that it does show its age a little bit. I like the idea of, okay, I'm going to regenerate. Then she could say, oh, you could turn into a woman, I wouldn't care. And then he turns into a fridge or something completely different that is unexpected. And then she uses the fridge in the way that you ended up with. It's
absolutely, it's fair. I mean, it's playing with the story beats, the but.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe it doesn't fit, but it's sort of that I'm going to change into somebody else, and it could have been, could have turned her into one of the other Doctors in the canon, could have turned her into Tom Baker, into Capaldi.
You could have
and she could have just, liked older men.
That would work. I think that would work better than you could turn her into Colin Baker, and nobody likes Colin Baker. Sorry, Colin. Do you know what I mean? And then you've got, I mean, that's quite a nerdy thing to know. And so you probably need to think, nobody in the Radio 4 listeners are going to know that nobody likes Colin Baker.
The young DMs are open audience that we were talking about.
Who the hell is Colin Baker? But what I'm saying is, though, but yes, you could, if you wanted to, turn them into one of the other former Doctors who isn't David Tennant or Matt Smith or one of the sexy ones.
We'd capped at a third draft. Maybe yes, I thought maybe a read through that would have changed if we'd done this as a classic podcast record and think we may have gone maybe not and changed it on the fly.
But generally speaking, the sketch far better. I still think there are areas to be tightened up. I do like the canine stuff, but I think there's too much of it. Mm-hmm. I think the sooner we get to the extreme lengths that she goes to, the better. And that takes too long to get there. Yep. But it's not that the material isn't good. I don't know if we need to have as much as I do love the canine joke. I just think one line would be sufficient.
And I think there's probably a couple of other things like that. I noticed listening back after the record, like to edit it together ahead of speaking to you today, that the opening line is, there's a gag in there, and it's replaced the Star Wars line.
Oh, yes, I noticed that gone.
Outside those doors, you'll find hideous leather-skinned monsters who've been at war with their neighbours for decades. And then Simone says, is it Sontar? In the script, it says Sunderland. Yes. We'll cover the Swindon thing in a moment. That didn't get anything in the room. And I think people are trying to orient, okay, what's going on here? It's Doctor Who. Oh, do you know what I mean? And does that gag contribute to the premise?
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
So
this is, although if it was a sketch about Sunderland or Swindon, then yes, we're setting it up. But a lot of that material, you could just go straight to "You're home, Simone," and now I'm leaving, and get cut to the chase, basically, a lot sooner.
No, understandable. Yeah,
I think there's
establishing while diving in, and it was trying to throw a gag in while. Landing
to get a laugh as early as possible is a good technique to go for. But I do wonder, especially in the light of some of the conversations we've had about the old Star Wars video. You growing up in Newcastle, there's probably some specific James humour in there that isn't pertinent to this real focused central theme of the sketch. Does that sound fair?
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's a whole killing your darlings thing, isn't it, really? And that's quite difficult for writers to do. When they get attached to material or it's personal to them, it can be really difficult to go, I like that bit, yes, but does it serve? Does it earn its place? Does it serve the sketch? If it's just there because you like it, it's got to go. Yeah. Even if you cut it, it doesn't mean it's gone forever. You just put it into another sketch. Yeah. And you could, you go, well, I'll use that in something I'm going to do about Sunderland with Doctor Who.
Or Swindon.
So, let's talk about this. Swindon a bit.
So James and I probably had an email exchange that maybe you weren't CC'd
I know, I wasn't looped into this. It's important, obviously.
The challenge of trying to cast someone who's comfortable with a Sunderland accent it was too much for the Reject Piles production team and cast. So I got your permission. I said, look, really having a difficult time with Sunderland. How important is it? Like, can we do something with that? I can't remember who said. Oh, you suggested Swindon because it fits
the Sontar.
The alliteration.
It fits the alliteration joke.
Yeah.
So to keep that joke in.
Okay.
Listening back to it on the record, yes, that you could ditch that. You could ditch the canine things. Listening in the edit, we could knock those out.
But then I think a lot of laughs come from the West Country rural performance.
True.
Yes.
And it's let's just reflect on that a little bit. That's another one of these moving parts, isn't it? You would have not had any preconception when writing this script originally for DMs Are Open that one day this would be performed by someone who's not confident doing a Sunderland accent, so they do a Swindon accent, and then that accent gets some laughs.
Yeah.
And it's just part of the process, the dynamic element of taking it from page to performance. We spoke earlier about the stuff that can change during the edit as well. It's just, there are all of these things that can potentially change, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse, sometimes just different.
I would like to just attach the fact that you can change Sunderland to Swindon should reveal to you the whole of that line can cut. And it's difficult to be that reflective on your own material, especially if you're
in that scenario. You know, you're not going to play out the scenario of what if the character can't or the actor can't do this accent.
It might be a good thing to do, though. I'm like, what if the sketch you're writing, and what if they can't do what you've asked them to do? How important is it to the script?
Yeah.
If it's not important at all, I think that's quite revealing.
Heuristic.
Yeah.
It's
So
an
do
interesting point.
I direct occasionally, and I directed a play the other year, and we did a rehearsal session. Have I told about this before? Probably. But I deliberately told my actor, one of them, do it completely wrong. Just go against your instinct about how to do these lines, and we discover what we discover.
Yeah.
And then you find what you can find out what's right by knowing what's wrong, and sometimes what you think is wrong is actually better than what you thought is right. So it's being open to mistakes and embracing things that are different. So I think as a writer, it's a similar concept of if someone's read your script and they're doing it all wrong, what effect does that have on it? Why is it wrong? Not just because they're not saying the words that are on the page, but in terms of why isn't it funny? Why is it important that they say it in that way? And like you say, if it's important for them to have a Sunderland accent, why is it important? And so really question every single creative decision you've made. And I know it can be hard because people get very attached when they're writing. They take it very personally. And I'm like,
I can't remember who wrote it, but there's something about underlining your things with highlighting lines with red and green pens. And reds are jokes and greens are exposition. And if you've got too much green, you don't need it.
Yeah.
And
I've said this before about my notes, and often I've put in the notes I give to sketches, every line should be either a setup or a gag, basically. And if the setup, and try to make that setup as short as possible, and indeed the gags as short as possible. And if the setup is going on for ages and there's no gags, then you really do need to go through with the red pen in a different way and just cut all that stuff. Because ultimately a sketch is meant to be a series of jokes, and get to the jokes and the theme of the joke or the core of a joke as soon as possible. Even the stuff about Canine, although it is funny, I think it goes on a little long because ultimately we want to get to the point where we've got the protagonist doing what they want to do.
There's an element of that is relevant to the premise. Because it's Canine humping his leg.
Which is great.
ultimately, what I needed there was the payoff, and if there was the added line there, which is I'm not doing this, and I'm not doing it for a 7.
Yeah.
You know, it's the doctor. The doctor can sort of pick and choose.
Yeah. Sometimes he might choose to.
Seven's a relatively high score. I think many people would kill to be a 7.
I still think that's mean. I think
it is mean.
I mean,
the doctor's often a bit of a mean person.
I don't imagine. This is me. I don't know. The idea of scoring someone by number. I know it's very popular and everything. I just feel it's a little bit off for the doctor to be doing that and engaging with that process. So I would have cut that line as well. I just feel maybe if the master had been there saying that, you'd get away with it, or Davros or something. Great. But I just think the doctor is meant to be a nice person, and if the idea is, oh no, we're challenging the doctor and showing the meaner side, is that funny though? I don't know. But just I don't know. I don't like the idea of being a bit bitchy.
I worked backwards. I needed a beat to cause the escalation.
Yeah.
That was my challenge. I needed a beat to cause an escalation. So I needed a but.
Yeah.
And that's maybe the cruelty was a wrong path. But I needed something to make Simone break out the pheromones.
Absolutely.
As a result. I'm trying to be nice. This isn't working. Outcome.
I mean,
escalation.
Yeah, absolutely. That bit's fine. I got no problem with that. I just think the numbers bit. Maybe I'm just old-fashioned, but I just think.
But this does get to an interesting point, which is we're parodying Doctor Who, and we're talking about the Doctor. We're talking about the integrity of the Doctor's character.
Yes.
So is there just something in that what you're allowed to do in a parody and what is a no-go? A parody's sort of got to be relatable. And I guess, in a way, the character that you're parodying has to be relatable and identifiable. You're saying you don't identify. That's not your doctor. You don't identify.
True. I mean, I've been watching the show for long enough to know that that's just not how the doctor would behave. If the doctor did start behaving in that way, I would suddenly lose... what's the word? Appreciation for the things that they do. Yes, they can, as much as they like, they can defeat the Daleks, but if they start going around judging people with numbers, that's it, I'm out.
Or maybe that's a different idea. What if the doctor was like that?
Exactly.
That-
And then
and
that would
that's
be
a sketch.
exactly. It's a separate
You've
sketch.
got an alpha Doctor Who.
Have you heard that Danny Dyer genuinely wants to be Doctor Who?
Well, I'm here for it.
Yeah, I would so watch that show because it's so different. He's been recently interviewed. He's been saying it for ages. I worked with Danny a while ago. He's a really nice bloke, and he would be well up for it. I just think if I saw Danny Dyer swearing at a Dalek, I just think it would be terrific. Separately to this parody of Doctor Who, I'm going to be really picky. Did you have a particular Doctor in mind?
We did this question, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, so is it meant to be a David Tennant sexy Doctor Who? Is it meant to be a Matt Smith nerdy but attractive in a nerdy kind of way?
Yeah, it was I mean, I think my reply to Luke was make it that you have had far too much Haribo and are a bit bouncy around the walls. It was a sort of portmanteau of Tennant and Smith,
Right.
without being one of them directly.
But in that kind of mould
in
of
that
being
mould,
excitable but attractive in that way.
Yes.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. Not, if you were trying to do this with, Sylvester McCoy, it wouldn't work.
Are you saying Sylvester McCoy isn't sexually attractive?
How did we end up here? So what James has just referred to there is my inquiry with him as to understand which Doctor is this supposed to be. Again, it's as a production note. What guidance are we giving the cast here? And just tying it back to DMs Are Open, what you've done is given DMs Are Open a Doctor Who parody for their very talented cast. Somebody on there has to parody a Doctor and do an impression of the Doctor. Is that the sort of thing that DMs does? Could that be another reason why this may not have been successful for that particular show? What do we think?
Possibly not. I mean, this was the second series of DM, so this was the first time they'd gone non-topical.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a shot in the dark.
Yeah.
Some of the other submissions, yes, it was much more slice of life sitcom. Not sitcom, but sketch from sitcom without, with a relatively quick thing.
Knowing what you know now about DMs, would you put that sketch in?
No.
So this is
that's the short version, though.
Yeah, can I understand then? That's because you submitted it at a time where the show was trying to find its voice, so you didn't know. But now, having heard 4 series of it and 3 of which have been non-topical, you're like, okay, this isn't the right format for that show.
It's not. They don't seem to do parody. There are other shows out there that do parody. Noising Up, the Scottish show, they do parody quite readily. They do adverts quite readily. DMs explicitly says, "Do not send us adverts." Whereas there are other comedy shows out there that gladly take them.
And of course, it's not an open door show, but Dead Ringers would have been perfect because it's an impression show.
Dead Ringers has recently done a Doctor Who sketch.
Oh, it brings out his Tom Baker all the time.
Any opportunity.
They did the one with the Doctor dying of cringe was one.
Oh yes, I did hear that one.
Which was very much John Holmes walking into that producer's chair and finding all the golden geese of the BBC and putting a match to them all.
You deliberately decided not to pick a particular Doctor.
Yes.
And as a performer, as an actor, I'm not saying I'm one, I do occasionally, but what I'm saying is it is very difficult. Vagueness is really hard. So is there a particular reason why you said, I don't want to make this David Tennant? Because it would have been a lot easier for the actor and indeed the reader to picture, oh, that's a David Tennant Doctor. Why did you deliberately mush it up?
Probably because it was an email on the spot and it was sort of going,
make a production decision now, James.
Yes, ultimately, yes. It was probably written. It was written more leaning Tennant. Let's go with leaning Tennant.
So what I'm thinking is, at the time of you writing it, it would have been, to save you even writing the email, you should have put David Tennant. This is the David Tennant Doctor, or the 10th Doctor, or however you want to phrase it, so that the reader and the performer is quite clear what you're doing. So you sometimes do have to be that specific in the script.
If it's that important.
If it's that important. Well, as opposed to it being the Sylvester McCoy Doctor or the Colin Baker Doctor.
It's writing it not knowing what can be done. Because if you write something and say, this is a David Tennant Doctor, or you write something and say, Sunderland is absolutely integral to the script, bam, you're on the reject pile of the reject pile. Because it's too integral to everything.
I'm going to argue with that. And I think this is probably going to be something we've said before, if it is fundamental, you've got to have that confidence. I said this in the last episode. You've got to, if it's got to be about a sexy David Tennant Doctor, then that's the sketch. If it's funny enough, the producers will find a way. And I don't think, I genuinely don't think writers should be worrying about producer problems. They should just be worrying about writing a sketch that is worth the hassle of a producer making it. If Hitchhikers wasn't as funny and as great as it was, then all those copious amounts of notes and difficulties, they would have just flung it out. But because it was so good, then John Lloyd at the time would have, gone, this is definitely worth putting the effort in because I can see how great this is going to be.
And it's a fair comment. DMs gives you rules. There are 5 actors.
Yeah.
3, I think it's 3 women and 2 men now because with Stevie as a host plus 2 and 2. So that always sets your corners. And sometimes it's the danger of writing ambiguously because you think, if I write something a little more ambiguously than should you name your characters? I mean, in this case, because it's a straight parody, it's Simone. Simone could have turned into Simon very easily. That was almost a little bit of a deliberate play anyway. It kind of didn't matter in that respect. But by naming people, you're potentially gendering them. But then writing a script with person 1, person 2, person 3, and person 4 feels exactly that. It feels unstructured.
I'd say it's a tricky one. Sometimes you've got to commit to. How do I put this? Right, let me think this sort through.
Well,
so I might need to cut there. You jump in there. What I'm thinking.
If you were writing a sitcom, would you name your characters person 1, person 2?
No.
So I think the same rule applies for me.
I'm going to argue with that.
Go for it.
In a sketch, you don't always need to have that. It depends. A sketch is not a sitcom. But if it's a man or a woman, that's a decision because an actor needs to be male, in the way that they present on the radio. So you could put that. Person is very vague. Unless the person, it doesn't matter about any of those decisions, in which case anybody can say that line, then you can put person 1.
I think it depends.
Yeah, of course it does. But if you've got, for example, a sketch and there is a bunch of people in a queue at a bus stop, and ultimately there isn't anything about those individuals that is particularly unique, then you can get away with person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But if you want to make them stand out as individuals in any way whatsoever, then yes, then give them a name or give them a characteristic that will help the producer cast that person. I would also point out, by the way, you said about DMs have only got 5 actors. So, I mean, it's radio. And they can do multiple voices. You could have a cast of 30 in a sketch. I mean, they would all hate you, but they'd all have to do 6 voices. Fine. I would say that as a challenge for the actors. I think if I was a producer, I think this is fantastic. The actors would love it, getting an opportunity to stretch themselves. I did a play, Moreau. 3 of the cast play 5 characters each. And they all love the fact that they get to do different stuff and it isn't just one character each. Similarly, though, of course, you don't have to give them all something to do. So
Fewer than 5.
Absolutely, yeah. If you could do a monologue if you wanted, you could have a 2-hander and so on up to the number of 5, but then you could go more or less. And
I
so
do wonder, though, are DMs more prescriptive with 5 characters or not?
I don't know.
I don't think they are.
Okay.
It's writing to fulfill a brief and feel that you are one of, I think they said at one point they get several hundred sketches per thing, and it's a bit like my day job is looking at CVs, and if your CV comes in and it's sloppily presented and it's full of spelling mistakes and your career history doesn't add up, am I going to interview you? Possibly not, because there's one thing will slide. By the time you've got 3, 4, 5 things, no, that's going into the thanks but no thanks.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. What feels so fair, I mean, if you're John Finnemore and you're saying I'm going to write this for 30 voices,
Yeah.
you're John Finnemore, and the producers are going,
If it's funny,
Jo-
if it's worth the hassle,
but it's also John Finnemore's souvenir program.
yeah. But that's because he's very talented and he's built up. His staff is, he's already put the work in. I would like to point out though that having actors having to act, that is their job. So it's not a stretch for the producer to ask an actor to act. And if they mean they've got to play more than one part, and they're having to do multiple parts in the show generally. If I
good
was
point.
the producer of the show, I would try to do a sketch where every single character that they've already played in that show turns up in a sketch at the end. Because you can. There is potential of bringing back. That is one of the DM notes, actually. They wanted really strong characters so they could potentially bring them back for other sketches.
And in fairness, I did that I wrote 3 submissions with the same core tenant of people, which stood alone as sketches. But if you put all 3 of them together for the last series, I wrote having been devouring a large amount of John le Carré, I wrote a sort of 3-part spy, 3-part spy story.
Amazing.
Within it, they all stood up as independent stories, but put them together, and you had the setup, the mission, the fallout. It's thrown to DMs, which is throwing a few crumbs into a very big pool, versus if the BBC Voices thing that we talked about previously, if it was go and write me a sketch for 6 people in a room in Norwich that you're recording at 6 o'clock tonight, I might be happy to push the boundaries a bit more, because if they go, it can't be done, it's like, well, you've got 2.5 hours left, guys. This is what I've written. It's where you can apply the leverage. I've gone to the webinars. Prior to the series starting, they often have a webinar.
Yeah.
And I'm the nerdy one who asks the nerdy questions, like how much direction do you actually want in the script? Because exactly that script was written, Dr. Simone, and then ancillary characters. At the top, could I have written a paragraph going lead in? Here's all your notes for your lead in. But the problem is when they're saying keep to 3 pages. Do you want to sacrifice half a page to here is my vision for this? Because again, as a harried and overworked producer who's got 1,000 sketches to read through, they're going to get this and go, no.
Yeah.
Oh, this one lands from line 1.
Absolutely. No, it's got to. I mean, again, this is what I was saying before about this. Cut to the chase, get to the funnies within a line or 2, because that's how much attention a reader's going to get. Yeah. Oh, is this funny yet?
Agree. But what I mean is notes for the producer at the top. Please note this this is written around the David Tennant. You need a David Tennant voice. This is written around this. You need here's all your technicality and technical things you're going to need for this sketch. And they might just go, we're recording this in the university on the Thursday night. This sounds like an awful lot of work compared to this sketch that's, some people getting a birthday present, some people at a birthday party that's already fleshed out and ready to go.
What I want to contribute to this discussion is, and this comes up quite a lot in our conversations with writers, is I think it depends what you're writing it for. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe that's where you're coming from different perspectives. James is talking about you're writing this as a submission to DM's brief. Mm-hmm. That's the end goal. And then Phil, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, you're sort of decoupling it from DMs and saying, well, this is just a sketch.
I'm not decoupling it from DMs. I just think being aware of the strengths and the challenges that an actor can overcome. Yeah. Don't worry about making an actor act. I don't think that's a cost. I understand multiple sound effects and music and things like that. That might be a challenge, particularly for clearances.
They always say that DMs don't use copyright music.
I would like to just add, your new version is it's very good. It's very good. It's certainly a lot more focused. There is clear progression. Like you say, you've thought about structure. You've got the South Park technique.
Yes, so and buts.
The so and buts, yeah. But essentially, everything has a consequence and it builds, which is great. And you've got a clear focus. You've got the protagonist who wants something, which is, and they go to extreme lengths to do it. And we've got a resolution at the end. So, yeah, I think this new version is much better. I still think there are things that can be tightened up. But that's always the way. So well done is what I want to add. So
I mean, I don't know who said it, but it's writing is rewriting.
It is. I say that all the time.
Reading this Douglas Adams book, the amount of things that reappear. For his famous line about things being peanuts to space appears in Footlight sketches. Then in
ideas
then
that
in
he
then in
liked.
other things. Then in other, he loved that. He loved that bit of dialogue, and it ultimately becomes one of the great lines of Hitchhiker.
And even then, it evolves. I mean, every version of it. I was talking to the producer and creator of this new Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy show. It's another iteration of Hitchhikers, and it proves that a good idea can change and evolve and be reshaped and reused and repackaged in different ways. So yes, you started as a radio show, then it became a TV show, then it became a play, which lasted not very long, and then there was the books as well, and then there was the films, and so on.
There was also an LP recording, which was not the original radio transmission. I discovered,
Absolutely.
because the BBC did not license it for that, and foolishly they re-recorded it, and it was released under another label.
And it's got changes in it.
And it's got changes, and it's got different cast and different jokes. It starts with Arthur, with Earth being demolished. All of them start like that, but then the adventures go,
Yeah, but I'm just saying that I think highlights that, like you say, all writing is rewriting, and even things that we think are perfect in themselves, and the radio show of Hitchhikers is terrific, that, again, has been rewritten. So I'm just saying that, to sort of wrap things up, really, and it is that whenever anybody's written a sketch, don't be thinking that that's the end, because you might well use that material in something else, like Douglas Adams did, and went, okay, well, it didn't work at that particular time. Maybe that DM sketch didn't work, but there was a nugget of something that our conversation has prompted a new version of that sketch, which you then could submit to another thing, or you just keep going and keep going on something, and then eventually the stars will align, and something that you've written will land on somebody's desk, which is exactly the thing they're looking for, and it's at the state that the state that you're going, that is perfect for what you need it to be.
For me, I had that last month. I had 2 months ago, I wrote a sketch for Noising Up, the Scottish sketch show, about a woman being asked to put her baby in the hold of an aircraft because it was too large.
Right.
I mean, the premise. So I made laugh. Which means the premise itself is quite funny.
The premise, a clear premise.
It didn't land. It didn't make it to Noising Up. I reworked it. I turned it to a stage production. I sent it to the Treason Show in Brighton, who are fabulous for wanting sketches. They run about 10 times a year, and they want a regular diet of sketches, parodies, and jokes and songs. And it got on all 3 nights that they ran. And Mark, the producer and creator, told me it got laughs every night of the week.
Yeah, so it's a clear idea, and so I think that, again, that like you say, it shows that sometimes it's just a matter of timing, but sometimes you revise and you eventually it will land where. So basically, the biggest note I always give is just keep going. Yep. Just keep going.
James, do you want to tell the listeners about where they can hear more about you and the work that you're doing?
If you want to find me, I'm on Blue Sky at jsdocherty.bsky.social. I'm on Threads at j_s_Docherty. I'm on Reddit as James_s_Docherty. I'm also on the BCG Pro, if anyone wants to find me through that. I've never used the networking site on BCG Pro, but it's a very useful thing. My DMs are open.
Very good.
To add a plug. And yeah, if you want to find me, I'm regularly appear on, my jokes are on, at the moment, DMs are open. I've just had a credit on there. Outside of that, I also sometimes appear on News Biscuit, the satirical news website. If anyone searches on that, if anyone wants to turn some of their stuff maybe from sketch into longer form on topicality, News Biscuit is always a great place. I will always put a shout out for the News Biscuit guys, because I've been there for, 17 years.
Wow.
On News Biscuit, writing things. So it's well worth a look on there. So I would throw that out to anyone.
And Phil, what about you? Where can people find you, and what are you working on?
Okay, well, they can find me on pretty much all the socials at Zenith Bootleg. And that's there's a long story for that one, but I use basically Zenith Bootleg on everything. So yeah, I'm on Threads, I'm on Blue Sky, I'm on Facebook, I'm still on X. Probably shouldn't be. What am I currently working on? I've got about 6 short films I'm currently doing. They're all in different degrees of post. There are a couple of comedies in there. And beyond that, more episodes of this, I hope.
Yes, indeed, there sure will be. Okay, thanks so much for sending in your submissions, James, and joining us in the Reject Pile. This has been the Reject Pile. I've been Luke Edwards. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.
The Cybermen are my fault too. You have a couple of bad breakups, and they all get together, find a way to suppress their emotions, and become
Well, Doctor, I don't know how you did it, but you're a perfect copy of Julio. Now, if I can just carve a... sorry. Well, Doctor, now I know how you did it. Or rather, I don't know how you did it.